Part 2 of Emmanuel Conrad. Part 2. I stopped at, boy, that's the place where the question was asked, who are you? Marked my return to the other madness, this so-called sane world. Conrad speaking here. Who are you? I had lots of questions. I was the son of a solidly middle class parents, mother, a school teacher, dad, a career postal employee. They've sacrificed to send me to private schools. I got a football scholarship to a prestigious Ivy League college. I had a talent for writing, but I took no pains to nurture it. I was simply content to live the good life. You know what I'm saying, Brother Steve? Conrad's heavy hand clamped down on my shoulder, jarring me from my absent-minded study gaze at the woman taking a crap in the gutter across the street. Yeah, I know what you're saying. He made his charming smile. Of course, seeing somebody take a crap in the street wasn't new to him. I was shocked and fascinated. I would suspect, given what we know about human nature, lots of our problems would be solved. He continued, seeming to notice the defecator across the street for the first time. I mean, look at it this way. If you could answer that one simple question, who are you? Then you would be well on your way to knowing what your purpose in life is going to be. The woman stood up and wiped her filthy dress between her buttocks. I made an ugly face. God, how gross. Take her, for example. He pointed with his scraggly bearded chin. They called her Candy Lips because she had such a filthy mouth. I know her. No one could say anything to her for fear of being cussed out. Conway, what about your book? I'd like to talk about that. What the fuck you think I'm talking about? Oh. I felt like someone who had gotten himself caught without his homework. Conrad seemed to be meditating or in deep thought for a few moments. I took careful note of a small pack of large rats that suddenly swarmed up through the drainage opening to our right. I was terrified. Would they attack us? No, they would attack us. They had urgent business across the street, thank God. Acid was the catalyst. It offered too many realities. Huh? Maybe I shouldn't blame my total collapse into the snake pit on acid. Maybe I would have tripped down anyway without any artificial aid. I felt tired of listening to this man's story, sick of the stench and filth all around me, afraid of the people who shuffle up and down the streets, the rats. Conrad, look, it's getting late. I think I ought to be going. Where are you going? Home. You're not married, right? No, but I thought you wanted to hang out, get into the ambiance of things. Well, yeah, I did. I do, but I don't want to take up all your time. No problem. Come on, I want to meet somebody. Mr. Emmanuel Conrad was definitely putting a face on the Skid Row scene for me. Everybody knew him, and he knew everybody. But there was no celebrity tinge in the atmosphere. He didn't offer formal introductions. He simply said, "This is Mike, he's with me." And that was it. Mr. Philpott was sitting on a milk crate in the middle of a deserted building site. And despite the fact that it was a balmy summer evening, someone had built a small star-figured bonfire about 5 yards to the left of Mr. Philpott. I would have been tempted to say that the scene was, well, tribal, but I didn't want to feel that it was appropriate to describe it that way aloud. Conrad gave a respectful wave to Mr. Philpott and pointed to me as he said, "Mike Bronstein." Mr. Philpott nodded in my general direction and kept on talking. It was hard to determine a lot about the man in the flickering lights of the bonfire. He was obviously an older guy, maybe 60 or so, but I couldn't be certain because I had discovered in a short time that many people on Skid Row looked much older than they were. Let's hear it for the soft lights on the streets. I try to stay away from junk food and junk food circumstances as much as possible. And believe me, that y'all know that's kind of hard to do out here. But we have to do our best. I was immediately enchanted by the man's voice, his mannerisms. He reminded me, frankly, of a cooler, older Richard Pryor. Don't get me wrong, I didn't know Richard Pryor. I'd only seen him on videos. But I could easily see that Mr. Philpott was in the Pryor mode. "Y'all maintain," he said, just as we found our places in a horseshoe circle. "I gotta go pee." He stood up with arthritic stiffness. I could read the arthritic signs pretty well from having watched my grandfather creak along. Mr. Philpott walked several steps away from the flickering light as the fire, turned his back to us, and let fly. He zipped up and resettled himself on the milk crate. I took a casual look at the people in our circle, most of them sitting on the hard-packed dirt, cushioned by pieces of flattened cardboard, swatches of tarp, dirty blankets. About 20, 25 people, a cross-racial, cross-cultural mix, a few women, 2 of them Asians. Asian women on Skid Row? That grabbed my interest. Maybe it has something to do with native stereotypes, but I had never associated Asian women with Skid Row. Skid Row was a black-white thing. They were alert, paying attention to the proceedings, but it was a pretty beat-up looking bunch. Seemed like all the guys had broken noses, scabs on their faces, blackened eyes, cuts here and there. The women wild-haired and equally dirty, beat up. The warmth of the fire sharpened the funky aromas that each of them carried, but Mr. Philpott was taking matters above the funk. I'd be willing to bet that more than half of you dudes sitting around here ain't never had a prostate exam, have you? Raise your hands if you ain't never had one. All of the men raised their hands, including yours truly, and 2 of the women. Mr. Philpott took careful note of the response to his impromptu survey question. Just as I thought. All of y'all just waiting to get that old nasty cancer of the prostate. Sisters, y'all can put your hands down. This is a man thing. We all shared a laugh at the slightly embarrassed, confused expressions on the women's unwashed faces. Mr. Philpott stared into the flame for a few beats. I could see the exquisite timing of a superior actor in him. "Yeah, I'm glad I got my old prostate checked out last year. They tell me the daggone thing is swelling up, enlarging. But it's going so slow, I'm apt to die of heart attack or heartbreak before the cancer kills me." I was surprised to hear the deep rumble of Conrad's laughter. Mr. Philpott was a funny man. It didn't take a lot of exposure to see that, that he was really talking about something. Well, that's neither here nor there. What was I talking about before I took a leak? Clever dude. He was forcing us to remember where he had placed the marker, what page he was on. Concrete! Someone yelled out. Give that gentleman a cupidal, he responded before returning to his subject. Yeah, concrete. That's where I was. I don't think I have to do a whole bunch of explaining to y'all, to folks who are very well acquainted with the concrete. Conrad gave me a heavy nudge in the ribs and winked. To folks who know what the sidewalks are made of, what living on the concrete can do to the soul, to the human spirit, think about how so many of us out here today start our day out and end our day on the cold-hearted, merciless concrete. I bet you we got some people right here, right now, who are touching dirt, natural dirt, for the first time in days, maybe weeks. Now you got to ask yourself, why is living on the concrete bad? Well, the first thing I can tell you is that don't help your concrete, your arthritis wither down. We were with him. He was my grandfather, Jacob Brunstein. We smiled with him. Point I'm trying to get to is this. We wasn't the ones who decided we want to live on concrete and lose connection with Mother Earth. It was the politicians who did it. And I ain't just talking about white politicians or black politicians. I'm talking about all of them. They're all the same, all over the planet. I don't think it's real important to know how they did it. It's why they did it. As I look around here, I can see that some of y'all are too young to remember when we didn't have thousands of people living out here on the concrete. Why did the politicians put us out here on the streets? Let me start with that old guy who died of Alzheimer's, Ray Gunn. Lord Almighty, talk about poetic justice. I could see absent expressions on a few faces. Who was Ray Gunn? Mr. Philpott took note too and filled in the blanks. Ronald Reagan was one of those old foxy-ass politicians who helped the poor get poor and open up the doors of the mental hospitals for thousands of our sisters and brothers to get lost out here on the concrete. Now, why did he do that? Well, my theory is that he was using the poor and the mentally ill as buffer zone. You know, like blocks between you and the cold wind or the rain. Several of us nodded in unison. Some of us may not have known who Ray Gunn was, but we could clearly understand the idea of something keeping the wind and the rain away from us. You see, the thing you got to understand about politicians is that they're always trying to figure out a way to make some money. That's all they care about is money. That's all they care about. Now, Ray Gunn and his henchmen decided to have some distraction from them stealing our money or using our money in the wrong way, or wars and whatnot. So Ray Gunn, or whoever thought of the idea, decided to focus on making the poor poorer and opening the doors to the mental institutions around the country. They would be distraction, don't you see? See how that is? While he and his big-time corporate thief pals was raiding the chicken coop, they could point their fingers at us and say, look at them nasty old people and all them crazies. Ain't they a damn disgrace? They ought to do something about themselves. Now, that's what I call a buffer zone. A real distraction from the real problems and the real solutions. This is one of the few places in the known world where poor people are blamed for being poor and sick people are blamed for being sick. I felt like applauding, but I was restrained by a big wink and a nod from Conrad. He was signaling to me that there was more to come. Okay, so we down and out, right? I said. So we down and out, right? The group responded with very vigorous grunts of approval and several indistinct moans. Just as I thought. Some of us are in denial. We don't want to admit we down and out. And some of us are mentally ill too, right? A spacey beat passed before a full chorus answered his question. I am. I'm sick right now. Yeah, I'm crazy as hell. I ain't crazy, but I think I am. Yeah. All right, simmer down. Y'all done made your point. You're crazy as hell. I ain't gonna take it anymore. Network. Petty Chayefsky's masterpiece flickered through the back of my consciousness. We're mad as hell and we're not gonna take it anymore. Okay. Now that we all agree that we're poor and crazy, it's time to move on to another level. I was surprised at the reactions of the people around me. Some were more animated. The blank expressions had blossomed into grins, smiles, gleaming eyes. Mr. Philpott had struck some chimes. Now, this might not sound crazy to some of y'all, but I'm going to say it anyway. I got two ideas that's been bumping around in my head since last New Year's. He paused and seemed to look at each individual around, asking them without saying it. Should I go on? The eager looks and the people edging toward him a few inches forward answered his question. He spoke in a low, distinct baritone, slowly scanning his audience. I think we ought to start a $1 casino up in here. We could ask these people who own this lot to let us use it, or one of those other vacant lots. Or maybe one of these would-be churches. Pedophile heavens, that's what I call them. No one would be allowed to bet more than $1. And no one would be allowed to take away winnings of more than $10. 10 cents would be deducted from every dollar that was gambled to fund health services, mental health included, feed people some good food, provide shelters and such as that. What do y'all think about that? I felt vaguely surprised to see my own voice join the others. That's a damn good idea. Conrad gave up another deep, rumbling laugh. He sounded like a volcano when he laughed. Number two, remember I said I had two ideas, about as many as a man my age could hold on to at the same time. His semi-toothless smile reminded me of Conrad's charming smile. Number two, I know this might sound a little bit far-fetched, but there's no reason why we couldn't create our own republic down here. Issue visas and stuff for people who want to trip through. Let's say, like our friend here. What's your name? I forgot. I suddenly felt stage fright. Why me? Conrad nudged me in the rib. Michael Bronstein, sir. Yeah, visa for people like Michael here. Obviously, he's here for a reason, on a mission. You ought to be charged something for him to get what he wants. And I ain't talking about drugs or sex. They're out of the picture as far as I'm concerned. Y'all maintain. I gotta go mail a letter. Once again, he uncreaked himself from the crate to go take a piss. A visit? A visa to visit the San Julian Street Republic? Yeah, why not? Once again, receded, he probed us. Now then, where was I at? Visas, I called out. Mr. Philpott favored me with a smile and a wave in my direction. Give that gentleman a Cupid doll. Yes, sir, that's exactly where I was at, but I ain't there no more. I'm off to another level. Come on with it. Since I done got old I've discovered I can't spend a whole lot of time talking about the same thing for too long. What I want to do now is share something with y'all. Once again, he elevated his pause to include a question mark look at us. Should I continue? I felt tempted to call out, "Let us hear the will! We will hear the will!" The scene was so Shakespearean. We edged forward a few inches. What I got in my head basically concerns how many things have gone from bad to worse and how we can turn some of this stuff around. How long has it been since I was in any group outdoors and no one was smoking anything? I turned to whisper up to Conrad did. "I noticed no one is smoking here, not smoking anything." "Nah," Conrad whispered back. "Mr. Philpott don't like smoke around it, no kind of smoke." Mr. Philpott stared into the dying fire for a beat before an anonymous contributor gently placed 2 large slabs of wood on the fire. Mr. Philpott looked grateful. "Fire good for this arthritis," he said, and paused for effect, and then was off to another level. But y'all got to understand that this ain't the great society like Johnson tried to make us believe. It ain't the Camelot society like Kennedy wanted us to believe. And it damn sure ain't the democratic society that the guy in charge right now wants us to believe. What this is, what we got now, is the insensitive society. It was obvious that Mr. Philpott was really going to take us off to another level. By referring to historical figures like Johnson and Kennedy and not backspacing to explain who they were, he was on another level automatically. I just have to say this. I felt a sense of the surreal, if you will, standing around in an empty lot with a bunch of folks who looked as though they had stumbled onto the scene from the underworld, listening to a little old black guy sitting on a milk crate who was making more sense to me than I'd ever gotten out of 4 years of college. I think the insensitive society took off big time when they started having these arguments, shows on TV. Somebody else might say it, all begin to go downhill, begin to become insensitive when gas station attendants stop wiping off our windshields, checking our tires and measuring our oil. He laughed at a private joke. I know that some of y'all think this stuff is ancient history, but it ain't. It used to happen. That's what I'm going to go. No, I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. I ain't got nothing against TV. I just happen to think that it's the TV that's got something against me. The reason I'm saying that is because the people who run the channel let us always seem to be focusing on the worst stuff in the world. People squabbling and arguing all the time, even on these Snow White sitcom shows. You can't tell me that those people are insensitive. They got to be insensitive. Insensitive want us to give us a murder every minute or some kind of negative stuff every 5 minutes. Some of y'all standing around here right now, stepchildren of this negative TV programming. Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
I had to laugh hearing a fervent amens growl up from some people who probably hadn't seen the inside of a church and hear, amen!
Amen.
Think about what's going on around us to clearly understand what an insensitive society looks like. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I'm sleeping in this real cozy doorway over there on 4th. At about 4 a.m., I was woke up by a couple of young bloods sitting in their car about 10 steps away from me and about 10 other people. They had come down here to buy some dope because it was obvious they didn't live here. They had turned their boom boxes in their car up so loud the car was shaking and the sound was vibrating through the concrete. Now, I'm sure that all of y'all who know me know that Mr. Philpott hates loud noises. I heard enough loud noises in Vietnam to last me a lifetime. Well, to make a long story short, I went over to the car and asked the young bloods to turn the noise down. You know what they says to me? I was beginning to enjoy his question mark pauses. He says to me, now you got to understand, we shouting at each other because the boombox was so loud. He said, hell, nigga, if you don't like this, go some other fucking place. I wanted to tell him he should go someplace else. I was already where I was, but I knew it would be useless because they were so insensitive, they wouldn't even hear me. So I signaled for a few of my friends to help the situation out. What happened, Conrad? You were there. We told them they had to go, or else we would turn their car over and burn it with them in it, if need be. I could see the scene. Conrad and a few other gorilla figures, sorry guys, around the car, threatening to do the inhabitants bodily harm with malice aforethought. Perfect example of insensitivity. How could you park on another man's front porch and force him to listen to what you wanted to hear? But you have to remember, this kind of stuff does not come from nowhere. Everything on earth, everybody has a birthplace. I could tell that those young men were overstimulated. That's why they were playing the stuff so loud. I don't care what you listen to, if you play it loud enough, your ears are going to become hard, insensitized. So you have to play it louder because you can't hear it at a normal level. I hate to admit it, but ain't no doubt in my mind, within the next few years, we're going to have millions of young people running around here deaf as Betsy Bugs. We already got 10 of them right now here, someone called out, provoking audience laughter. It was no longer a funky, stinking collection of Skid Row bums. We were a hip, unified group of aware citizens, some a bit more than others. Okay, so now that's a big example of how an insensitive society breeds insensitive people. Self-phonitis, that's real insensitive. Who the hell wants to hear about what you plan to do tonight? Believe it or not, I heard a woman discussing her abortion on her cell phone yesterday, right over there on 4th in Los Angeles. And don't let nobody fool you, folks. All these wars and man-made famines are the direct result of insensitivity. You can't tell me that you can't solve any problem by going to war. War should be declared illegal, immoral, unconstitutional, or whatever. But we should definitely take the whole idea of war off the human slate. Wars always leave a whole bunch of people dead. That reason alone should be enough to abolish the concept of war as a way to solve problems. I jammed my hands down in my pockets, felt my teeth grind together with anger. We hated the Iraq War, the second one, not the first one. The first one was about liberating Kuwait for American oil interests. That was okay, because this bully Saddam had invaded this helpless little neighbor. But the second war, the one lied into fruition by the Bush neocons, weapons of mass destruction, imminent threat to us all. The war on terror, Osama bin Laden, mushroom clouds, was wrong, illegal, immoral, unconstitutional, whatever. I felt like applauding Mr. Philpott on the point observations. All products of the insensitive society is all I'm saying. Insensitivity is either a byproduct of rage or is the other way around. He held up his right hand for an intermission. I went to mail a letter. I was beginning to wonder if he was deliberately creating these pee breaks at strategic points to give us an opportunity to think about his remarks. And I'm going to stop it there until tomorrow at the same time.
Fantastic.
because he's going to mail a letter. And I'm going to do the same thing. Although my name is not Philpott.
Yes, Odie Hawkins. And your book can be purchased at Author House, Amazon, or Barnes & Noble, or a person's local bookstore. Just go in and say you want Conrad, Kwanzaa for Conrad, and the Survival Tango by Odie Hawkins. And
this marvelous cover, I might add, was done by one Zola Salena-Hawkins.
Thank you very much. www.odiehawkins.com. Till next time.
Off.
Off. Ciao.
I didn't have to go away.